got somebody in the studio with me tonight who's actually part of a community organisation local to us here at Market Harbour. It's called the Desborough Community Development Trust, but I'm not going to say that any longer because I think my guest can tell me the shorter way of saying it. Good evening, Philip.
Good evening, Owen. Yes, we call it Dcdt.
Which is a lot easier than saying what I've just said. Absolutely. So I think for now onwards we'll use that.
Okay.
Welcome to HFM. Tell us a little bit about yourself first. Who is Philip Rice?
Okay, well, I came to Market Harbour to work at Golden Wonder.
Right.
Many, many years ago. Which some of your listeners will remember the head office was on the corner of Abbey Street. That was over 30 years ago, I think.
It would be, yes.
And I came to live in Desborough. And I've been there ever since.
So what sort of got you into, because I'm assuming the group that you hear, Dcdt, is sort of a charitable thing. What got you involved in that?
Yes, it is a charity, but it arose out of concern amongst a lot of people in Desborough about what was happening around the town, in particular some of the planning decisions that were coming out of Kettering Borough Council. Originally concerned in particular about the Lawrence factory site, which is still derelict even now, and has been for many, many years. A group of people were working with the Borough Council to try and develop that site for mixed use, but then suddenly in 2009 Kettering Borough Council decided they were going to sell the site to Tesco's, who were going to knock down the factory and turn it into a supermarket. And at that point a meeting was called of the people in Desborough, about 50 or 60 I guess turned up at the community centre, and it was quite obvious that people from all sorts of backgrounds and different interests were all concerned about various aspects of what was going on in Desborough. And out of that, a group of us decided to take that further, and we ended up with the help of the Development Trust Association becoming a development trust for Desborough. And for some unknown reason, I was elected to be one of the trustees. And more recently, about a year ago, I became the chair.
So, how many people are actually involved in sort of the day-to-day running of this?
Well, the day-to-day running is basically down to the trustees. We're a registered charity and company registered by guarantee, so we're sort of directors and trustees, if you like. And there are nominally 9 people at the moment. Our AGM's coming up. Some of those are leaving, and we need to appoint some more. But we have a wider membership of over 100 members, who are generally just people who want to keep in touch with us and follow what we're doing. Membership's free, anyone can join us. Be glad to have your company in the organisation. And we're always looking for people to help us.
We'll certainly tell people a little bit more about how they can do that later on. You mentioned that there was an interest in a planning thing that came up, and that was how you originally started. What other things does the group get involved in?
Well, one of the first things we did was to work out how we were going to raise money to support whatever it was we wanted to do. And by the time all the legal complications of setting up the trust were finished, we had opened a charity shop in Desborough, our first charity shop, and that was just 5 years ago this coming October.
Wow.
So we're just wondering about having a 5th anniversary celebration. Not quite sure what form that will take at the moment. So that's one of the things we do, and that's one of the ways in which people can help, because that is run by volunteers, and we are always open to new volunteers joining us to help with that work. And that is a brilliant way of supporting us and supporting Desborough, because we raise a lot of money through that shop, and with that money we support other organisations who are doing many things in Desborough, including the Scouts and Brownies and so on and so forth. Football team we support. And
so you say it's a shop. What's
it's just a charity shop. People bring in second-hand goods, unwanted Christmas presents, clothes, all sorts of things. It's basically a second-hand goods shop in the tradition of charity shops. It's obviously a lot better than all the other charity shops. But then I would say that.
Of course. The money that you raise, you just mentioned Scouts Brownies. Is it sort of for sort of community groups, I'm guessing.
It's basically for anybody who's got a project that's going to help the people of Desborough in general. So obviously the Brownies organisation help young girls and so on. Say there's a football team that we helped out. We help the schools, the local schools. We make sure that every school child at the primary schools in Desborough has a trip out somewhere every year. We help with the pocket park, maintenance of that, and so on and so forth. The cricket club. And
what sort of levels of funding do you give out to the groups? Is it just as a big amount?
5 years ago, when we started, I think we gave £1,000 away. Wow. Now, 5 years on, it's sort of £12,000 to £15,000 a year we give away to local organisations, and we're quite open to any organisation approaching us and applying for funding. We will, consider all applications.
I was going to say I'll explain it, get an idea of how you do that in a few minutes' time. Okay. Apart from the shop, are there any other ways you get funding?
For the big projects, obviously, we are looking for funding, government funding, lottery funding, etc. But the only other income we get is if we run an event such as the open air cinema, which is where I first met you, I think.
It is, yes.
Recent.
Should we really tell our listeners what you were wearing, or
you can tell them about my habits if you like.
We certainly can. It was The Sound of Music, wasn't it? And you were certainly well dressed as a nun that evening.
Yes.
So you do that annually, don't you? The open air cinema, or is it?
It's not particularly annually. We've been trying to find what is the best time of year to do it. It's quite complicated because showing a film out of doors, and the company who do it bring along a huge inflatable screen, but the rule is that you can't show the film until half an hour after sundown.
Right. Okay.
So if we showed it at the end of June, for example, we wouldn't finish till the early hours of the morning. If we showed it in March, it would be too cold. So we've been trying to get it right. The last one we did was in May, and I think you'll agree it was quite cold.
It was, yes. But I seem to remember I had to bring blankets. I did. The fact you open air, I think, is part of it, because you're normally in a...
Well, yeah, so we I say, as you said, we had Sound of Music this year. We always do something that people can dance along with and sing and join in the songs, and everyone has a good time. There's plenty of space out on the Millennium Green, and everyone has a good time.
And what sort of other events have you perhaps got in mind, or have you done?
Well, some of the things we've done include the duck race, Easter egg hunts, things like that. We put on a Christmas show last year. The Northants Touring Arts people were sponsored by the Trust to come and put on a show for families, basically, and we're thinking of doing something similar this year.
Right. So is there a way that people can sort of keep up with what you do? Do you have perhaps a website?
We do have a website, and I'll tell you what it is. I can never remember it when I'm asked, but it's www.desboroughcdt.org.uk.
And I believe you also have a Facebook page as well.
And the organisation has a Facebook page, yes. Search for Desborough Community Development Trust.
So just search for that, and then that'll tell you a little bit more there as well. So the future, how does that sort of look for the organisation? I suppose it's like every other. There's always challenges and for funding ahead.
Yes, I mean, we continue to run the shop and do all that enables us to do in the community, but we're also, believe it or not, still campaigning about the Lawrence factory site, and also the Hawthorns, what was the Hawthorns Leisure Centre, it is now an empty site, and trying to be involved with what happens on those sites in the future. In terms of the Lawrence factory site, we are now in dialogue with the Borough Council and trying to develop a plan with them along the lines of the original plan, which means mixed use, possibly some residential, but certainly some work units and retail outlets, which will hopefully benefit the town centre, improve the whole town centre experience.
Because I know last year I was in Desborough at the sort of, I think it's your equivalent to the late night shopping event, and that was quite a community event.
Yes, it is, yes, absolutely. The community always come together for big events. one of the things the Trust did a couple of years ago, 3 years ago I guess now, for the Diamond Jubilee was we closed off the main road and had a street party. And there were hundreds of people there with sandwiches and jelly. It was great.
Sounds great. The whole organisation sounds great. If people perhaps who are listening tonight either live in Desborough, because we do just sort of get out to there with our signal, or even in Market Hub who feel that they can either support you or perhaps, I don't know, donate to you, is there ways of getting hold of you? And is there some ideas of what they could be involved in?
Well, as I said before, we always want volunteers for the shop, but also when it comes to all of the events that we put on, like the tea party, street party, it all takes a lot of work and effort, and sometimes it feels as if it's just the trustees who do this. It would be good if we could get more people who may or may not want to be trustees but would actually like to help with any of these events. Please do get in touch with us. All the contact details are on the website, which I can tell you again is www.desboroughcdt.org.uk.
It's not even easy to remember when you got it in front of you, is it? A big thank you for coming into the studio and telling us about the group tonight. Is there any sort of last-minute thing you want to say, or any last-minute thank yous?
Well, I would say thank you to the people who have been running the shop, because it is difficult when the volunteers are stretched and the number of volunteers is small, but they do an incredible job, and the number of people who use that shop is testimony to that. It's very popular. It acts as a sort of hub for people to come into, just to talk about what's going on in Desborough, as well as being a shop. So I would like to thank them and my fellow trustees for all their hard work.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming into HFM tonight. Hopefully a rosy future for Dcdt. We were talking about a piece of music to finish the interview, and you were happy to go along with my theme for this evening. What piece of music did you choose?
Well, I've chosen The Searchers, When You Walk in the Room.
A big thank you to Philip Rice.
Thank you.